Do you recognize these guys? Yes. One famous cartoonist, Randall Munro, said, I read comics and I did science and never really put them together until I accidentally found myself in the middle of one. I want to ask you a couple of questions. How many of you have ever read comics? How many of you still read some comics? Okay. Today, most of the comics perceived as, at best, as popular entertainment and at worst as a dangerous influence at youth. But in this presentation, I will persuade you that comics can serve even as a legitimate form of study and can be used in educational purposes. Okay. These are some responses on what teachers think about comics and including comics in their curriculum. Here you can see some negative answers. Today I'm going to refute them. I'm going to show you that those are not simplified word-based literacy. I wish to move beyond seeing the reading of comics as just like that. As Dale Jacobs states in the English Journal in 2007, comics provide a complex environment, beginning with the layout of the page itself. The layout of the comics contains multiple panels connected with each other with physical or conceptual spaces. The reader has to fill in the blank and negotiate the meaning of those ones. Images of people, objects, animals, and settings, word bubbles, letters, sound effects, all those come from layouts. And you have to recognize the patterns and catch the meaning of every layout. So, why read comics? Recently, many librarians have been arguing for the introduction comics for the library collections. So why do they do that? That's why most of the librarians think that comics serve as a tool drawing young people into the library as it gets more cool and interesting for them. Especially for adolescents, boys, which seem to show little interest in reading, and that makes them, that's transformed them from reluctant readers to lifelong readers. So in my presentation, I will show you, or through the examples in history, business ethics, and sociology, that comics can be used in education. The first point is comics and history. Probably the most bright example of that one is Captain America and Spider-Man, of course. Captain America first appeared in World War II, continuing mirror development in the wider American society, while Spider-Man genesis during the Cold War and his conflicted spirit aligned him more closely to baby boom generation. 9 months before Japan tackled the United States naval fleet at Pearl Harbor, Captain America was already at war with Nazis. The first issues covered, as you can see on the screen, in 1941, Captain America punches Hitler's face. Initially, comics tells about the Steve Rogers, which is an aspiring student caught up with widespread eagerness to defeat Nazis. But he's unable to qualify the regular military, and he volunteers in scientific experiment, which transforms him into an exemplary soldier. And colored in red, white, and blue, he served as a defender of the United States. Later on, once victory against Germany and Japan is secured, Captain America's career continued. During the 50s, communists replaced the Nazis in the terms of evil towards many Americans. At that time, Captain America confronted the villain Elector, the electric-charged monster, and he ruined his plans about blowing up United Nations. As the author states, Americans play not to win, but for the sake of sportsmanship and fair play, which Nazis and Reds know nothing about at all. This anti-communism illustrates for student Americans' attitudes towards Soviet Union at that time. After having been frozen in Atlantic iceberg, Captain America returned in 1964. Negotiating in the 1960s was very hard for Captain America as well as for the rest of American people. You know that Martin Luther King's movement. And he has his Afro-American partner Falcon, who helps him to work to eliminate poverty, political corruption, and racism, pollution. However, Captain America was silent about Viet Cong, perhaps the common mood of uncertainty about this conflict. At the height of Watergate scandal, Captain America shared Americans' disappointment and frustration. He even stopped calling himself Captain America and used the man without a country instead. Also, the divisive nature of American politics made it impossible for Captain America to meet everyone's definition of patriotism, as some wanted him to stay on the street and to give speeches on the street against George Bush administration, while others wanted him to punch out Saddam Hussein. During the summer of 2009, the 5-part series came in. This crisis, the worst after 1930s, showed that patriotic icon, it's the right time for him to return. So, aren't those good topics to discuss? Of course they are. But unlike Captain America, Spider-Man was a product of Cold War and emphasized greater attention to adolescents and their place in American society. The famous quote, "With great power comes great responsibility," reflects the relationships between Soviet Union and the United States at that time. Also, the space race shaped a new era for superheroes and created a Fantastic Four. Later on, the nuclear race created Hulk and Iron Man. Now I'd like to move to the next point, which is business ethics. These are some issues that revealed in the comics. For example, leadership. Different leadership is communicated in comic books through negative and positive examples. For example, we can see in X-Men, individual characters serve as various roles in organizations and groups. And we can see different leadership styles of Storm, Professor Xavier, and others. The role of group aggressor is adopted by Wolverine, who provides a critical perspective and fights against groupthink. The next one is diversity and teamwork. Every individual in X-Men has a unique mutation or ability. The mutants divides into 3 groups: those who want to take over the world with Magneto, the second group, those who want to rest peacefully with Professor Xavier, and the third one, who haven't yet decided which side to join. Employee issues. Yes, Professor Xavier is disabled, but yet fully incorporated in the workplace, right? And more surprisingly, marketing. Recently, Marvel has put the Nike logo on some new series. So this is all business ethics, I think. It's all relevant. Yeah. This is a famous conflict between Magneto and Professor Xavier and Wolverine. The last point is comics in sociology. Kelly Hall and Betsy Lukal, in tapping into parallel universes using superhero comic books in sociology courses, state that two of the main issues introduced in comics are social inequality and struggling good with evil. So what comes to mind when someone mentions comics? Horror, Western, superhero, right? Let's focus on superhero comics. Those are the most widely published and familiar type of comic book, right? And they provide an illustration of different social problems, like social inequality. If you notice, most of the heroes are white and heterosexual, right? Yeah. You will also can see throughout the series of X-Men the discrimination and prejudice. While there exists one group of people who are mutants and other group of people which are just human beings. Human beings just try to avoid, control, or eradicate mutant kind. This group tries to destroy this group of people. Anti-mutant leaders demonstrate the manipulation of resources, legislation, and violence to get rid of the world of mutant kind. So, having thought about those 3 points, comics in history, business ethics, and sociology, I want to finish my presentation with words of R. Spiegelman, Pulitzer Prize winner. The comics are a gateway drug to literacy. Thank you for your attention.